So thank you for joining us today for our session called Help Improve Your Students' Chances of Landing a Job. This came about because in times such as these, I will say the two most recent times that come to mind were this time in 2020 when the pandemic was ramping up, and also a couple years ago when tech here in Seattle was not having a good time. I get calls from reporters and they're like, how is the job market? What are you doing to support students? What advice do you give them? And a lot of times the answer is we give them the same advice we've always given them, but hopefully now they'll take us a little more seriously. But what I decided to do was to put all of our best advice from all of our different workshops into one place. So we created this for advisors, and then we decided to also create a student version. So we've offered this once for students, and we have another one coming up here in a couple of weeks. So who is this talking voice? A lot of you all know, I'm sure, but my name is Brianna Randall. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director in the centralized career and internship center here on campus, on the Seattle campus, I should clarify. I've worked in our center for nearly 21 years, and I've been the director for almost exactly 6 years. We're going to cover 6 main topics that really apply more to people who are actively looking for internships or jobs. And then we will kind of tweak those tips at the end for students who want to make sure by the time they get ready to apply for internships and jobs that they are marketable. So the first topic is mindset. Job searching is hard work, but students really need to keep at it. I remember when I was a teenager looking for teenager jobs, and my dad, who thinks he's very wise, still does, was like, Brianna, finding work is the hardest work you'll ever do. And really, there's a lot of truth to that. But I think it takes people by surprise how much time and energy and emotion it takes. So we don't want students to let the negative headlines scare them. There are a lot of uncertainties, layoffs, cuts. And so I think the natural tendency is to think that nobody's hiring, and that just isn't the case. There is hiring going on. And so we don't want people to just not try. Avoid comparing to others, right? So my friend got a job, or my roommate only applied to 2 jobs, or everybody that I see on social media has a job. Everybody's situation is different. And just in this day and age with so much social media in particular, there's just a lot of room to compare to others. And that can further discourage people from even trying. This is hard. This is a really hard part, I think, for our students, is that even if you end up with your dream job, there is a 99.9% chance that you have been rejected from others you've applied to. And I think for our students who are very accomplished, and some of them, got into the college of their choice and the major of their choice, and then not getting their internship or their job of choice can be really rattling. And you just have to know going in, you're going to get rejected. There's no way around it, right? And that it isn't personal. There's not enough people to review resumes. There's too many people submitting too many resumes, which we'll get in there. So if you don't get a job or you're not hearing back, chances are it's not because you're terrible and they hated everything about your application. It's that they got a lot of applications, they're understaffed, and they're doing the best they can. So also don't let that keep you from keep trying. And because of all those things, self-care and resilience are really important. And of course, that looks different for everybody. That could be therapy, It could be having an accountability partner that helps you keep going. It- you know, mm, ice cream, working out, nature, so many things, but people really do need to build that into this process because it does take a lot of time and there is rejection involved. So mindset is really important. This isn't going to be easy, but it won't be impossible. So the second mindset piece is to really try to keep an open mind. And I will tell you, we struggle and get some pushback from students on this. And what do I mean by that? Sectors. There's corporate, nonprofit, government, healthcare, education. There's a lot of places that have jobs, and it might not be the exact sector that you were targeting originally, and that's okay. Uh, to be open-minded about what you're willing to apply to, and also industries within that. So even within corporate, you might have wanted to work in a big tech company, but maybe you can be a tech person in an automotive company. So again, open mind about sector, industry, employer types, sizes, and names. So I do think there is an allure and an attractiveness about the big employers that students see when they're driving around the Seattle area, or that do make headlines, that have produced some really cool products. But there's some really good opportunities to build skills and to grow your experience in small organizations, mid-size, ones that don't have brand names yet. So again, be open-minded about that. The job titles and levels. So I think for some of our students who have been very accomplished and maybe they've held some high-level leadership roles, they might tend to think that they are qualified for more important sounding job titles than probably they really are. And I know that can feel like another setback, but students need to be applying for the right level of role. If it's a senior marketing person, even if they've done a lot of marketing here on campus in different internships or student roles, that's probably out of reach for them. So it's, marketing assistant, that sort of thing. And of course, geographic location. A lot of our students, we know from data, stay in Washington and also really want to stay in this region. I get it, it's a beautiful day out, mountains, water. But when students are really particular about each of these things, it is going to make it difficult for them. Also, if they're not able to get a job in the big fancy company that they were targeting, it's possible they might make less money in their first job. Not always, if they're working in a small company or in an emerging industry. And that's okay as well, right? Now, it's okay for people to have opinions and people to have priorities. We're just here to tell students that if you're real particular about all of these things, it will make your job a lot more difficult finding work. So at least find some of these that you're willing to be flexible in and to apply to more things within some of those bullets than you might naturally be inclined to apply to. Okay. So that's mindset, and those are super important. Then we try to summarize all of our best tips for how to market oneself. A student can have all the amazing experience in the world, but if they can't figure out how to convey that to employers, it really doesn't matter, unfortunately. Include career readiness competencies when describing experiences. We have a page called Build Career Readiness Competencies on our website. It outlines the different types of competencies that employers, specifically who hire new college grads, are kind of expecting to see on resumes. Okay, so sometimes it's just, we never want students to say they have them when they don't, but sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking the words that students are using to describe a leadership experience or an internship or a class project, using words that employers understand. Okay. Mention not only what you did, like what tasks you had, but the accomplishments, the metrics, you increased sales or you served this many customers, and results, did you, some of that I was just mentioning, but numbers to more fully and robustly describe what you did can be helpful. I will say that isn't possible for every job to quantify. There's a lot of things people can put on a resume, and sometimes they need to have an open mind about that as well. Of course, internships, random part-time jobs that show they can go to work on time, be supervised, get feedback. It doesn't matter if it's career relevant, that's all still important. Volunteer experiences, specifically if they've been kind of long-standing or show a big commitment. Relevant class projects, leadership roles. It doesn't just have to be a resume full of internships. It can be more broad than that. And then we really do need people to put effort into them and front load that effort. How I like to say it is, I know tailoring your materials takes a lot of time, but theoretically, if you're spending the time on the front end to tailor your materials, hopefully you're saving time in the end because it's reducing the overall time you spend in job search. So what does that mean? Well, there are a lot of Gen AI tools, and we don't say that students can't use them when writing their job search materials, but we really don't want them to use verbatim what, say, ChatGPT spits out for them, right? Generally, they're pretty good, but often you can tell it was written by ChatGPT because it's not quite addressing the job description, or it doesn't include things that are more personal to you. It's things that it's a cover letter that could really come from anybody. And so if more than one candidate asks ChatGPT to write a cover letter for the same position, the cover letters might end up looking fairly similar. So edit and personalize anything that comes out of ChatGPT type tools. Tailor every time you submit or within categories. So if you're applying to some social media jobs, have a resume that's around that, or more some marketing coordinator jobs. You really do need to tailor, and we have a tool that will help called JobScan. That it doesn't help you build a resume. It helps you take your resume and compare it to a job description, and a job description at a specific company that uses a specific ATS called Applicant Tracking System. JobScan will give you tips on how to make your materials get through that ATS at that employer for that job description. So it's a tailoring targeting tool. I say that a lot of times fast. Also seek guidance and feedback on materials. And I would also say from a career professional, not necessarily a roommate, and honestly, not necessarily a parent or a faculty member. And we're seeing some job postings where it says writing a cover letter is optional. Anything that's optional, I would recommend that students do. It shows a little bit more interest in the role. It shows you've taken the time. And of course, in a cover letter, you get a chance to tell your story about how your previous background matches with what they're looking for, right? I love cover letters personally when I'm reviewing candidates for that reason. So we don't want students to do the bare minimum. We want them to show they've really given it their all. Okay. All right, we've talked about mindset and materials. Topic 3 is the importance of human connections cannot be overstated. Ask friends and family for introductions to professionals students could learn from, right? Somebody that the parent knows that does the type of job they're interested in, right? It doesn't have to be asking for a job, it's just learning more so you could do a better job on your materials. Attending career fairs because the recruiters there are actively hiring. We do have a fair in June. So not all hope is lost. There's more fairs to come. attend networking events, even though they seem terrifying and you'd probably rather sit and watch TV in your room. They provide a really friendly environment for people to get advice, meet others. Um, I won't say they're low stakes, but I just think the opportunity to meet people in person and to have conversations, to draw people in, ask questions about them, can be a really important part of this process. There is a tool on campus called Husky Landing. It's run out of the Alumni Association, and students can connect with alums who have chosen to be in this platform for the purpose of connecting with students. Of course, there's LinkedIn as well. You can just send messages to alumni with interesting career paths, right? Asking for advice, learning more about how to get from one step to the other. I think people think networking is I'm always asking for a job, but a lot of that is just building connections. It's a little bit tricky. If you are actively working, you've got to figure out how to kind of navigate that a little bit so you're being genuine. And then follow up after events and interviews. So if you've met with somebody, follow up with an email and thank them for their time and reiterate how you think you could be a good fit or what you learned from them, whatever the situation might be. Again, that just shows you're taking it probably more seriously than some of the other candidates. Application strategies, couple slides on this. Handshake really is an amazing tool. Right now, and I created this slide deck a little bit ago, there's actually closer to 75,000 roles in there right now. So yes, the headlines are not so great out there, but employers are actively posting lots and lots of roles. Okay, not all hope is lost. It is really important that students complete their profile. So when they originally set up their profile, they can skip through some things, and I understand why they do that because they want to sign up for an event, not worry about their profile. But once their profile is complete, they filled out all the things that makes the algorithm better. And then employers can contact them through the system. So having a complete profile is really important. Again, it's not just doing the bare minimum in Handshake, it's making sure you're using all the capabilities in Handshake. Yeah, this is about the algorithm. You just need to show your interest so that Handshake can show you jobs it thinks that will interest you. You know, just like Amazon, Netflix, all the places do. Experiment with different filter and keyword combinations. I will say sometimes, because there's 75,000 roles, people could feel overwhelmed by Handshake. And they might see the first screen of positions pop up and say, none of those interest me. I'm not going to try this again. Okay? There's different ways to filter. There's different keywords. Keep trying until it pulls up positions that do seem interesting. Then you can save a search agent to have them continue to surface positions. So don't give up. You got to put some time into it. Make the system work for you. Save your searches. And then there are capabilities in Handshake to directly message students and also employers. So that is a possibility that students are able to do in Handshake. It's not just go and mindlessly search through all the positions. You can also follow employers so that you'll get notified when they post new opportunities, which is really cool as well. So even if they don't have anything posted right now or what they have posted doesn't interest you, you can get notified when something else pops up. Handshake is lovely. I had a whole slide on it, but we do want students to be doing other things as well. So LinkedIn has a good jobs board. Indeed, there's other aggregation sites, sometimes in specific industries. Those are fine too. Use those in addition to Handshake. InterestRight is a platform that we have that's funded by the student tech fee, and it can help two ways. It can help domestic students look for jobs in other countries. And if you log in and tell the system you're an international student, it will also help those students figure out how to find jobs in the US. So there's two different looks of it based on how you set up your profile. And that can be a really good way as well. Checking company websites. And of course, use the strategies we just talked about in the connection section, really trying to get out and about, not behind your computer, and meet humans. For interviews, intention, preparation, and practice are really necessary. Most of us, myself included, probably most of you, are not by default super good at interviewing, right? We've been taught to not brag. We sometimes discount what we're good at. We haven't kept track of our accomplishments. It really does take practice. So what we really want students to do is demonstrate how their skills and experience will help them contribute in the workplace. Okay? They need to get in the mindset that I am providing a service to this employer, and I need to show them how I could be of service to them, which of their needs I could meet, which of their gaps I could fill, right? You do that by concrete stories that demonstrate your relevant skills and experience. This is really important to analyze the job description and the company website. I'm sure you've been in this experience as well, but we've done some job interviews with professional staff candidates who I'm pretty sure they haven't looked at our website. And I'm like, why? There's a lot of great stuff that you could learn from just like making a basic level pass through our website. But analyzing the job description really will help students figure out what types of skills might be asked in an interview, what types of stories they should prepare to talk about. Funny story, there was a stat at one point from a study I read that said a lot of students don't actively read the job description until after they've applied. Okay. But at least maybe then they're actively looking at it when they get called for an interview. Being able to tell a concrete story about your past experiences using the STAR method is important. And it's called different things, the CAR method, KACAR method, different things. But telling a good story that's specific, talks about what you did and what the results of it were in a couple minute time frame, that is really important. And people need to practice telling those stories, whether it's using a tool we have called Udly, whether that is in front of their mirror, talking to their cat, whatever it might be, and they need to say it out loud because words coming out of your mouth sound very different than words in your head. Good segue to that. Udly is an online communication tool that can help people practice conversations, presentations, and interviews. And it will tailor it to whatever job field you want, and give you feedback on the content of your answers, what points are coming across, and also your delivery. It's a fantastic tool, and it's free courtesy of the Student Tech fee for the Seattle campus. And Bothell has an account as well. Okay. I think this might be the last topic. 3:56, gotta hurry. All right, while waiting to land a role. So you're doing all these things, you're still trying to make things happen. It is important to not just relax all the time. We want people to take it easy and to take care of themselves, but show continued desire to build skills and experience. You can do that by doing a LinkedIn learning course and putting it on your LinkedIn profile. You can do it by doing a Forage job simulation, and that can be put on a resume that you've been through that. Continuing to build skills and experience and being able to showcase that can be really important as well. Making genuine professional connections through what we talked about. Getting experiences. So if a job doesn't materialize when they graduate, try to do some other type of experience. I honestly think sometimes having structure to one's day and having purpose can help the frustration of not having a job, but also then it is more ways to meet people, build skills, and have something to put on a resume. If what you had been doing isn't working, meet with somebody and figure out, do I need to do something different with my resume, or are my interview answers not really cutting it? Okay. So the summary of all of that is we don't want people to do the bare minimum. We don't want them to apply and connect only online. We don't want them to send generic materials that took little time or thought. When I was talking to a national group, we kind of talked about people say they're applying to lots of jobs. And I interjected, well, I think we need to break down what applying means. Applying does not mean sending generic materials by hitting submit to something every 10 seconds. That is not applying, right? So taking some time or thought and then hitting submit. This negative cycle that we're in right now is that student platforms have made it so easy to apply for jobs. You just have to hit submit. That students are submitting a lot of applications, hundreds sometimes. Well, that means employers are getting double, triple, quadruple the number of applications, and they can't handle all of them. So they're not able to get back to all the candidates, who then I think get a little more desperate and apply to even more positions. And so we're in this like cycle that's hard to get out of right now. So we don't want people to just be totally spamming all the platforms. Okay. And applying only to dream jobs. One of our coaches has a sign in her office that says, your first job is just that, which I think is beautiful. Any job can help you build experiences, skills, and connections. Kind of talked about that already. So that covers for all the students who are kind of actively looking for something. I'm going to go probably a little bit over, but there's only one slide for this group. Is we really do want students to be intentional with their time. Look at the career readiness competencies ahead of time. We have a reflection sheet. How have you already developed this? What type of experience or class should you do to build more of this? Be mindful of that so that when you do go on the market, you have a lot to write about and a lot to talk about in interviews. Talked about this already, but internships are the number one thing employers look for right now. A few industries look at major, but a lot don't. Some look at GPA, but all of them look at experience and skills. So focus on those. Cultivate connections. Do a complete handshake profile right away and start connecting with employers through that. Create a really well done LinkedIn profile. It is amazing how many graduates who are on the market do not have a LinkedIn profile. That would be a good summer project, even if they don't feel like they have a lot to put on it, because they can always build on it then they have a when they apply for things. I think employers will just expect to be able to find them on LinkedIn. Plus you can meet really interesting people and read really interesting things through LinkedIn as well. And then even though we really want students to target their materials, it can be good to just have a baseline one ready, you know, a kind of basic one that if they find a job and the deadline is 2 hours from now, they have something to submit. Or if they need to submit something to get an on-campus student job, they have something. So writing a baseline resume can be really important as well, that then they can tailor it as they move along in their decision making. Okay. Ooh, that's all the content. I did want to highlight a few of these resources, and I am going to send you a link to this slide deck so you'll be able to click on these. I've put our main website. I've put the page where we list all of the different vendor products we have. Handshake, Udemy, JobScan, which I talked about today, plus some other ones. And a number, they're all free. A lot of them are funded by the student tech fee. So thank you to them. Our career planning pages include find purpose, build career readiness competencies, get experience, build relationships, tell your story through resumes and such, and find success. On each of those pages are handouts, videos, recorded webinars, success stories from students. We've tried to hit all the learning styles that we can on those pages. And then of course, Handshake, which is a really lovely tool. I am happy to stay a minute and take questions. I am going to go ahead and turn off the recording. Let me see here.